Hello and welcome to another episode of The Business of the Starving Artist with Hayden Woods, where it's our business to get you from being a starving artist to at least a surviving artist. As a quick update before we get into today's lesson, I did finally get around to updating my website, at least enough to where I can publish it and show a little bit more of a streamlined process. So I removed, again, a lot of those online courses that I was going to create. I'm just going to kind of shift gears on that, so we'll kind of see how that goes. So it's not a perfect site yet, but it's looking a lot better and a lot faster than it was before. To continue, as a disclaimer, everything I've done is been related to being a musician and a music educator, so a lot of the lessons that I have learned apply mostly to that, but we can take some of those and apply it to other areas. And today is definitely one that we have to at least address given the timing of everything. It is tax season. It is upon us, and the tax man will be coming for all of my tax money. So let's just get into it. I'm going to start with showing a lot of the things that that I've had to do, or that I am doing or experimenting with, just to kind of see compared to past years. So I will most likely be censoring a lot of extra information, and kind of the final result thus far. We're still waiting on some investment stuff, but when that gets here towards the middle of February, then I can finish out. So what do I have to do for my self-employment as far as taxes go? Obviously, the first step is reporting the income and the expenses. So I have it listed as freelance musician and private music instructor. You can see last year I took a lot of deductions to offset that tax balance, but this one shows a significant amount more. And we also have some updates on the housing area. I have not gone through and put in all of my deductions, just because I kind of want to see where we land beforehand, just because I am in the process of trying to buy a house, and if it's not this year, it's going to be next year for sure when I do have to pay my taxes. So the number of things that I have to look at, again, are the vehicle expense, which if we look and go in here, I can see like what my vehicle is, how long I've had it. I own the vehicle. I obviously use it for personal use because it's my only vehicle, and I don't have another one available to me. I kept track through the use of the standard mileage method. So you'll see in the next one, it's like, here's the number of miles that I've driven total, but then here in the second one is the number of miles I drove just for teaching. Now, I drove about 250 miles more than I did last year. And that also kind of translated into making more as a musician and music teacher. So this year I don't have a fleet, I get to take $7,113 as a deduction. There's some extra fees that you can do for like parking or toll fees or property taxes included in your registration fees and stuff like that. If you're paying interest on your car, which at that point I was, you can include that. So that's the whole deduction there. The other main one I want to look at is that business use of my home office. So I don't have more than one office. I don't share it with anyone else, and this is the only line of work that I do. I just named it my house. I'm going to probably skip through some of this. You qualify. Yes, I know. When did you start using it? 9/1/2018. Every month I've used this office. What percentage of your work for teaching music was done at this home office? Pretty much all of it, unless I'm traveling around. Size of the home versus the home square footage. So this is how big the home is in total. And then this is how much the office and music space that I use just for work. So I took the actual expenses and I basically entered everything in. So I rent the home. I can take 30.03% of my office as a deduction, and that's basically where we're going to leave it. But it totals out to, let's get back to there. Here we go. It gets me about a $6,000 deduction. Now, I'm pointing out these two specifically because, again, when we're discussing buying a house, those are the two things that we can roll back in to the income, because those things are absolutely crucial to my business, and we need to be able to include that. So that's like an extra $13,000 on top of the rest of the income, which you can see down here is $28,345, up from $23,981. So we can add most of that back in. So we'll hit around $27,000 this year, which is nice. And hopefully this next year it's even higher. Some of the other things that I took, communications, that's like your phone bill. I included internet as part of the utility. Supplies, I'm holding off on. Advertising is just the website, again, that I just showed off. The legal and professional fees is actually just doing these taxes on TurboTax. Health insurance premiums is just how much I paid out of pocket for the health insurance. And then other miscellaneous expenses, I think this year I only took a membership fee. Yes, and actually I'm going to get rid of the work uniform for now. And the banking fees really weren't that much, so I'm just not going to bother with it. But the membership fees for the International Trombone Association makes sense. So we've got all of our expenses put in. And for me, this means, as of right now, again, this will change once I get the investment stuff kind of figured out, but we're looking at about, let's see, the federal due of $1,612 and Montana tax due of $144. Now, obviously, all of my teaching took place in the United States. Was any of it for a former employer? Nope. It's all me. Nothing else will apply. Okay. Okay, so this is the other important thing to consider when you're taking deductions. It's going to be pertinent that you're trying to keep your risk of being audited low. And in my case, it's usually that home office usage, which every year this kind of just flags up just because of how much of my house I'm currently using for my office space, whether it's actually active use or in storage. That's just going to be the case. It says it's high, but I mean, usually you can review it and it's good. Now, if it does become an issue, I can obviously retrack it that way. Okay. So I'm going to have to figure out how to pay the, what was it? $1,756 currently for that. And I believe there's like a payment plan you can take to make this possible. But this was also the first year that I had exclusively, I guess not exclusively, but this is the second year of exclusively self-employed without being a substitute teacher. If I go back to the homepage, we can see last year I received a small refund, which that was kind of expected. The year before I had gotten more, but these are the years that I had worked at substitute teaching and I had to file an amended tax return because of the unemployment rules. Here's the first, this is kind of the first year that things went absolutely right. So small refund there. And then 2018's this was the first year I started teaching, which resulted in a lot more work. So it varies. There are a lot of other things to consider. For example, my sister has kids, so she gets to take that child tax credit, which immensely helps the refund side so that you're not having to pay those taxes on there. There's also the income credit for those of lower income. So if I review what I've taken so far, Now, this also plays into the standard deduction, so unfortunately, it doesn't really affect me as much as it should or as I would like it to, but that's just how it is. The other things you have to consider in the deductions category, so this is not within your expenses for self-employment, are things like medical expenses. So I had to pay these for things like my glasses, which I'm not wearing right now because I'm blind. I'm running blind right now. Um, so stuff like that. My dentist bill, any checkups that I had to pay money on. So next year I'll have to pay for like my prescription, the dentist bills, and other various things. I also don't have my vision insurance, so whenever I have to go do that, it's going to be all out of pocket for now. The other things that to consider are the Affordable Care Act. So if you get a health plan through the marketplace like I did, you can qualify for an amount on or to pay towards the health premium just so that you're not fronting the entire, what was it, $450 that my plan would be without this. Now, granted, if you take the full deduction, there is a small chance that you would have to take or pay some of that back. And I think I have to pay for a whopping, I'm not going to go look for it, but I think I have to pay a whole $3 back. So it's not the end of the world. I think I can live without $3. What are some other things? The retirement account. Now, it's inputted, but it really doesn't contribute or count towards anything right now, which is fine. The contribution credit has that. Tax preparation fees, again, was the self-employment use of TurboTax. So there's a lot of things that we can consider as a creative and a self-employed individual. Again, I'm in the process of trying to buy a house, probably not this year, but next year. So I'll have to take advantage of mortgage interest, the fact that I'd be paying property taxes. If there's anything else, maybe what's a DC first-time home buyers? That's for the just in the District of Columbia has expired for homes. Okay, so this would have been something for those moving to Washington DC. Other things are like the earned income credit, which I showed you, the child independent care, which I already talked about. You can, if you make donations, you can write those down. Cars, the registration fees, which don't affect it that much, and usually you kind of take care of that within the vehicle. If you went to school, or if you're paying down your student loans, you'll get one of these for the interest paid on those student loans, which can be written off, thankfully. Medical, again, the medical expenses I already took care of. The Affordable Care Act I took care of. If I wanted to have an HSA or MSA, that would be something to consider too. Estimated tax payments, given that I'm currently owing on that this year, I'm probably going to need to start paying them more ahead of time rather than as I file. Sales tax in the state of Montana. We don't have a sales tax. But in a state, say like Wyoming, if you pay the sales tax, you should keep record of it because you can get a write down from that. The foreign tax credit, I think that's just if you make money outside, but I don't have any of that right now, so it doesn't matter. Retirement and investments, the traditional Roth IRA contributions didn't really do anything. Employment expenses, this is specifically for those who are teachers or for those who are W-2 income. So like say you're required to buy specific clothes for your workplace for a uniform, you can write those off. Moving expenses, if I bought this house, I can take some moving expenses. I think I can also write some of that mileage off. I don't know that it's exactly the same. Let's go look. Mileage rate for moving 2024. There we go. Okay, so we already talked about 67 cents per mile for 2024. Now, they also have medical or moving purposes for qualified active duty members of the armed forces, or 14 cents per mile driven in service of charitable organizations. Now, I would have to look, but I would suspect that me moving my business from one location to a new spot would count. And I could record it, but we'll just have to kind of see what happens. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that I don't myself have to worry about, and most people won't. These are like case by case basis. So this also brings me to, and I forgot to say it at the beginning, but I'll probably edit in a giant flashing or big obnoxious do your own due diligence, because this is only what I'm doing. This cannot be taken as like the end all be all. This is something that you will have to research and make sure that it fits your specific situation. Again, if you are self-employed in any capacity, something like this will help you kind of guide what you can and can't take. So I'm flipping. I highlighted a bunch of stuff in green that applies to me. Some stuff in pink doesn't really apply to me. I think there's some yellow that is something I need to look into, investigate, like, or I guess an orange sometimes, inventory. So like if I have sales, there's also sections in here that discuss specific audit warnings. Again, like the concern of the home office expense shows up. So we have to be careful. But if you do your due diligence through this, through online research, through getting ideas of things to look for from a random person on YouTube in that whole space, we can be better prepared for something like this. Now, what am I going to change this year going into next year? I'm obviously going to have a set amount aside specifically for taxes. What I plan to do is I plan to pay this with my savings and kind of what comes up this month and next month for my income. But I'm going to figure out how I can do a payment plan on that, so I'm not fronting all of this on my own right up front. I'd like to space it out so that it doesn't hurt too much, and then from there we would figure out, I think somewhere down towards the end, we would figure out how much I should pay quarterly in order to like offset some of this upfront cost that I'm bearing right now. So with that being said, if there's any topics within the realm of taxes that we should go over specifically, something that would help or like break down some more, please feel free to leave them in the comments. Or if you have any ideas for topics that we need to discuss within this realm of taxes that would help guide you in the right direction for research, leave them in the comments. Or I think on Spotify there's like a Q&A type of thing, so I might change that question specifically for this. Again, do your due diligence. I am just a random person who's doing it my way. I actually shocked one of the lenders with the fact that I am basically my own accountant and that I don't have anyone else on that type of payroll at this point in time. Obviously, as things get more complicated, I might need to make that kind of a move, and then I would try to find someone who can work within these means. So with all of that said, thank you so much for listening to The Business of the Starving Artist. If you like what you heard today, give us a like, give us a share, give us all the other things that a typical online personality would ask of you. And until next time.